It's my pleasure to welcome to today's program Nate Cisney with Restoration Made Simple Consulting. Nate, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to see you. Always nice to catch up, as we know, especially as we wind down the year. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Nate, your company is called Restoration Made Simple, but we're going to talk about a part of restoration that may not be that simple, and that's mold remediation, which is an article you wrote for Clean Facts, and this video is part of that. And I have to think, when I asked you to write this, Nate, you were eager to do it about how a company who does water damage work or other restoration might add a mold division. Why is that an important topic for you?
Yes, I was eager to write it just because mold is one of those heavily discussed topics in our industry. It's also, I don't want to say it's regulated unless you live in certain states, but it definitely feels like it's regulated in many cases. And then for a lot of people, they don't feel like it's regulated because they're not doing it the right way. So when you had brought it up, the two thoughts that went through my brain is you have those who are on one extreme who do everything 100% by the book and it's very detailed and to some extent can be complicated. And then you have on the other extreme in our industry people who are, I'd say, willy-nillying it, right? Who just go in and say, hey, rip it out, spray some stuff on it, and we'll charge lots of money. So, yes, when you brought that up, I thought it was a great topic for sure.
Go in, spray stuff, rip things out. That sounds pretty simple to me, but I believe there's more to it. The article you wrote, we appreciate that, but let's talk about some of those points. Um, what are some of the common mold remediation mistakes you see companies make that those who want to do this work should know about?
I think the biggest one, and this will come up all the time, is education, right? Unfortunately, the barriers to entry to get into the disaster cleanup industry are very, very low. And that's why we see so much competition out there. Basically, it's go apply for a business license and open up a company name, and bam, you can have a restoration company. Mold goes along with that. Unless you live in certain states like New York or Florida or Texas, where you have to have a mold license, in the other 45, 47 other states, you don't have to have an actual license. You don't even have to have specialty training. You could walk into a job and tell somebody we're going to do a mold project, and they don't know the difference, nor does the state. And you could be exposing somebody to a lot of health concerns, a lot of liability. So I guess the biggest thing is probably goes back to education is that are you willing to invest and you're willing to do it the right way, or are you looking for the quick buck and just going, hey, we'll go do this and we'll charge lots of money because we know that it's a very profitable division in the restoration space.
Ever wished your estimates had a spell check? Estimators meet the actionable Xactimate profile. Just like spell check catches typos, the actionable profile catches estimate errors before they become costly mistakes. Less back and forth with your adjuster. Less headaches. No more mistakes, no more missed line items. Try the actionable profile today. Your spell check for estimates.
No doubt, Nate, some watching this program might be homeowners who deal with mold issues or have hired companies or need to in the future. What you just shared should put pause on the company they choose. Would you agree with that?
100%. And I think they say this, you read about it all the time, is as a homeowner, do your due diligence and make sure that your company has the right insurance, make sure they have the right designations. And I don't care if that's just a home remodeling or if it's a bath and tile company that comes in or somebody that builds decks, they always tell you to at least make sure you're doing your due diligence. And I think it's no different in our industry. If you're going to have somebody come deal with mold, and the difference with mold and all this other stuff, the reason why people are calling you is because there's been a problem and they're typically sick in most cases. I'd say 90% of them. So if somebody's calling you because they're sick, to me, the level of liability and the level of concern goes up immediately. This is not something they want to do. It's not something they plan for. It's not something that they get excited about. When you do a remodel, at least you're going to have an awesome finished product that's gorgeous. They're calling you because there's been a problem. So I think that brings the level of concern, the level of a standard of care goes up immediately. And so when I know of companies who are not following the rules and the guidelines, it causes reason for concern to go, yeah, do a little bit of work or research before you're going to have somebody come work in your house.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah, those industry standards that are out there, anyone can get those. They need to be followed. They need to be embraced. I know many companies do. Hopefully, this information will get out there and help others to do the same. But one more point I'd like to dig into, Nate, is in your article, you list some top questions, some questions that a company should ask themselves as they consider adding a mold division, which is a big step. It's not a simple task as you mentioned. It takes a lot of thought. What are some of your favorite points from those questions you put in the article?
I think obviously having owned a restoration company for 16 years, 17 years, and I think I even admitted in this article, right, that there was times when we were not doing mold protocol the way that we should. Obviously, everybody sees things a little bit differently according to what a protocol is, and I can understand and appreciate that. There's not always one way to skin a cat. But we do have guidelines. We have the IICRC, we've got the RIA, we have these different industries that are giving these guidelines as to what we should and shouldn't be doing. So I think if you're going to say what are the top questions, if you're looking at adding mold, is number one, are you ready to enter into what I would call a liability zone? As we discussed earlier, anytime you're going out to doing a mold job, you know that there's health concerns that are going to be associated with it no matter what. You as an individual or as a business owner need to ask yourself the question, am I willing to know that there may be a lawsuit by me starting these jobs? It is something that even though there's not a set law, unless you live in those states that I mentioned prior, it is something that people get sued for pretty regularly. So that would be a question. Number one is, are you ready for the liability to know that there may be legal concerns that occur down the road? Number two, what type of contractor do you want to be? Do you want to be the guy who comes in and just says, I want to make a lot of money, and we'll go rip it out, tear it out, we'll spray, encapsulant on it and call it a day? Or are you the guy who goes, no, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it by the book because that's who we are as a company? Now, keep in mind, if it's a money-driven decision, then it's easy to say, we're just going to go rip it out, tear it out, and we will add mold to our division. If you're saying, I want to do it by the book, then that requires that you have to send technicians. Use and owners should be going and getting trained. The AMRT, which is the antimicrobial remediation technician through the IICRC. The RIA has their own designations for these mold courses. Do your part and go get people trained and certified if they're going to handle mold. If you're a professional, act like one and do what it takes. In my opinion, right? If you're going to get in the industry, you're getting in the industry to be a professional, not to be what I like to call a hack job. It hurts our industry. It hurts the homeowners. It hurts the insurance. It hurts all of this all around. So be professional if you're going to do it. The other thing too that you need to consider is, a lot of people don't think, and this is getting more into the weeds, is, am I going to do testing? Typically, when you talk about the mold job, there should be a pre-test and there should be a post-test. A lot of companies don't ever do a pre-test. I was one of them. On certain jobs, we didn't do it. I'm not saying it's right, but if you're really following the guidelines, you need to know where you stand before you start a job, and you need to know where you stand when you finish a job. It gives you a very good baseline to be able to understand what you're trying to achieve. When you do testing, you should be using an industrial hygienist. A lot of companies don't do that. They might use a home inspector. Home inspector has a machine, he can go do it, but he can't really interpret the results. So we should be using somebody that's kind of what I call the doctor of the industry, which is an industrial hygienist. They can come in and do that testing and interpret and be able to tell you a scope of work. I think the other thing too is just, if you're really going to do mold by the book, is, are you a detailed person? Are you willing to scrub in between the studs? Are you willing to go through and HEPA vacuum all the areas, right? Like, it's a very, very detailed job, very similar to asbestos if you're following the guidelines. And so are you willing to be that person? And if you're more of a, I just want to rip it out, tear it out, you might want to consider whether mold is really something you should be doing, or if you maybe sub it out to somebody else who specializes in mold. So those would be a few questions.